Hello everyone. In this video we look at a very important measuring instrument, the sliding vernier caliper, or caliper for short. Make sure it's always on your bench within easy reach. So what is a sliding vernier caliper? It's an instrument that measures in three different ways. It can measure the external dimensions of an object, or the outer diameter of a disc. It can also measure the internal dimensions of an object, like a ring, for example. And finally, it can measure the depth of an object. The measurement readings are in centimeters and millimeters. So we are using the metric system, as you can see here, the scale with the centimeters. Some calipers have both the imperial and the metric scales, like this one. So you see that the imperial scale is at the top and the metric scale at the bottom. So we just, if that's what you have, just ignore the top scale and use the metric scale. There are two types of calipers, with a dial or a sliding gauge. Both are fine, but never get plastic, which is not accurate. Always get steel calipers. So why use a caliper? Why not just a ruler, which can also measure in centimeters and millimeters? It's because a caliper is much more accurate. It measures not only in centimeters and millimeters, but also in fractions of millimeters. Our calipers are precise up to 0.2 of a millimeter, or 2 decimals, whereas a ruler, of course, only indicates millimeters. Here you see the vernier, or the sliding gauge, that indicates the fractions of millimeters. The accuracy of a caliper is usually indicated on the instrument, like you see here on the dial. Let's look at the different parts of a caliper. So we have the scale, the metric scale, the jaws for measuring inside the shape or outside the shape, the thumb button, which allows us to slide the gauge, the vernier, and there is a screw clamp on top if you need to block the sliding gauge, and the stem at the very end for measuring depth. One more thing, you'll notice that the 0 is on the left, and we always start our reading from that point, so it is very important to know where it is. Before you begin, you must unlock the screw and loosen it before you start. Again, you would lock this screw if you need to lock a measurement, to transfer a measurement, or to check it against something. You close the jaws using your thumb on the thumb button, and everything should be lined up and back to 0 to get an accurate measurement. Reading a caliper involves 2 steps. The first one starts on the main scale, and you want to find out where it lines up with the 0 of the sliding scale. Here it's actually between two numbers 4 and 5. So it's going to be 4 millimeters and a bit. To find out what the fractions of millimeters are, you check on the dial, which here was 6. Here is our second example, a square. Starting on the main scale from the left, we see that 2 centimeters or 20 millimeters lines up perfectly. So first reading is 2, and that's it. There is no other reading, no second reading, because it's an exact match. You see the dial says 0, so we have 20 millimeters exactly. This, by the way, is the shape for your homework, which should be exactly 20. So there, I guess I get A plus for this one. So let's switch to the other caliper for our third example, which is a piece of round wire. Again, we start from the left, and the first line that lines up exactly with the 0 of the sliding scale is on the second line. It's 2, which would be 2 millimeters. Nothing else. It is an exact match. So the final reading is 2, which is the diameter of this wire. For our fourth example, we're measuring the diameter of a disc. Starting from the left, the first number that's lined up is 2 or 20 millimeters. Wait, no, not exactly. The 0 of the sliding scale is just before the 2, or 20. So it's not quite 20 millimeters, but 19 and a bit. So now we have to do a second reading on the sliding scale to find out what that little bit is. And we see that 8 is the first number that's lined up. So the final reading is 19.8 millimeters. And before I leave you, a reminder that you must take good care of your calipers. They must be stored in a sturdy, padded case to protect them from shocks and humidity. And don't drop them. They would get permanently damaged. If they are distorted, they will be no longer consistent or accurate. Thanks for watching. Bye.